Francis Ouimet is one of the most prolific amateur players of all time.
Yep.
And in most cases is seen to be the one that started the golf revolution in the United States. Do you know his story, and do you know what he truly did for the game of golf, Mike?
I do know his story. I don't think it's ever really, and until I kind of read this story, really understood the impact it had on golf. I always knew it was a big story, but I didn't realize, I think at the time, how big it was, just because of it's a little harder to understand now because, I would say golf is more of a welcoming game, especially compared to then.
Right.
So it's a little harder to understand the impact it had to us now, but it was huge. I mean, you had to be extremely, extremely wealthy to play golf, period.
It was
then.
like equestrian polo.
Just to get on the course.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It was like you could practice, but
you could sneak on.
You could practice, but if you were practicing, you were probably practicing in a field somewhere.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't play.
You couldn't get onto a course and play it without it costing you an immense amount of money.
And just so you know how important this was, Francis Ouimet winning the U.S. Open as an amateur made page one of the New York Times, which didn't happen back then. Sports events weren't like they are today, but making the front page of the New York Times for any sport event, let alone golf. And golf quickly went from a game from the very elite and the very rich to a game that was more accessible, not totally accessible, but more accessible than it had been before.
Yeah.
And that's according to a golf historian and author, Martin Davis, who has written multiple books about Francis and multiple books about the early days of golf here in the United States.
Yeah.
It was a foreign game at the turn of the century. It was not here.
Yeah.
And this just 100 years ago, golf was not really here.
Yep.
But thanks to what he did in 1913, the seed of American golf was planted. Jack Nicklaus said in a video that he made for Ouimet's fund, which we'll talk about here in a second, Francis set the stage for the likes of Jones, Hagen, Hogan, Nelson, Snead, and Palmer.
Yep.
Listen to those names.
I know.
Without Francis Ouimet, Jones, Hagen, Hogan, Nelson, Snead, and Palmer are owning auto body shop in Sacramento.
Insurance salesman.
Right, insurance salesman, hosting their own podcast.
Yeah.
Golf World Magazine ranked Ouimet's Open win as the most important moment in golf.
Yeah.
And it's that story that it's not told. Tiger Woods, you see it. Tiger Woods is in some cases our Francis Ouimet because of what he did for the game, how he transcended the game, right?
Yeah.
What he did for kids and youth and bringing more people into the game.
Yeah.
But take yourself back to 1913 and how important as a young kid it would be to see another 20-year-old win the United States Open, which at that time was just as important as it is today.